So, today we are going to be talking about how to find your growth ceiling as a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur. This is going to be, I'm hoping, like 30 to 45 minutes. But if you are not new to me, you know that I have a lot to share, have a lot to talk about. And I'm just really excited to dive in with you. So, the fun thing about the Substack Live is I can actually share my screen and I have some slides to look at to go through all of this together. So we're going to jump over there. And there we go. Okay, I think you guys should be able to see it. Let me know in the chat if you're watching, if you can see it, just to make sure. But anyway, like I said, this is the Growth Ceiling Diagnostic. I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I am the founder of The Nourish CEO. I have been in business myself for 12 years, and I've been in the online space for about 15 years. Creating content, running programs, doing launches, running evergreen setups. There's a lot of different things that I have done for both my business and another multi-7-figure business in the online space. And now I work with 6 and 7-figure founders to help them understand where they're getting stuck, to really dive into their business so that they can fix the problems that are there and stop wasting time and energy on the things that are not a problem, so that they can break through the bottlenecks and reach their next level. So we're going to go through where you might be getting stuck as a 6 or 7-figure founder. Now, if you run a business that you are generating at least 6 figures a year, maybe multi 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures, the reality is that takes a ton of work, dedication, and talent to even get there. So if you're at that level, you know you have what it takes to keep growing. You've done it before. You've seen seasons where you had those big leaps. You've seen seasons where the growth was really like just running well. And maybe now you're noticing, hey, every time I put more work in, I'm not actually getting the ROI that I used to get when I was spending time and energy growing my business at earlier stages, or maybe before you hit 6 figures. And for a lot of people, the harder they work, the more they bump up against that ceiling. And it gets really, really frustrating because you know how to make money in your business. You're not one of those people who's like, teach me how to make money. I don't know how to sell. Like, I don't know, who my people are. Like, you've made all of those decisions. You've figured that out, and you've proven that you know how to make money. But you're feeling that really uncomfortable gap where you are and where you know you could be and where you feel that you're capable of reaching is not matching, right? And so you start to have this feeling of what's wrong with me? I swear I know that I'm more talented than this. I swear there's more that I can accomplish. Why is this something that I keep feeling like everything I do is not getting me from where I am to where I want to be? And you're not somebody who just sits around and twiddles your thumbs and just like tries to manifest your next level, right? And not to say that there's anything wrong with mindset work, but you put a lot of work into this. You don't just sit around and hope things are going to change. You've tried dozens of different strategies. You've invested in help. You put the work in to actually get the results that you want, and you're not seeing the needle move anywhere near what it should be for the amount of work that you're doing. So that ceiling that you're hitting really does not make sense because you're working harder than ever. You have more skills than ever. You've made more investments than ever. There's just so many things that you have grown in. And so to you, it's like, well, how does this make any sense that like I should be higher at a higher level now? I should be making more money. I should have more ease in my business. I should feel more confident in what I'm doing. And in reality, you feel like, if anything, I feel less confident than I did when I was a newbie and just trying things out. Sorry, the slide decks sometimes go a little slow. Now, when you are looking to solve this problem, you're going to hear a lot of different conflicting opinions, whether that's from people that you've hired or you just log into Instagram and you just get slapped in the face with all of these ads and this content about how what you're doing isn't working and how what you're doing is dead and you just need better marketing, or you need a sales system, or you need this freedom funnel, or you need to stop telling your story because nobody cares about your story, or like, here's 5 ways that I grew my audience to 50,000 followers, or whatever, right? Like, there's all that stuff that you get slammed with when you are on social media and you're either just trying to do your work or you're looking for inspiration. And maybe you've fallen for a few of those perspectives. Maybe you were like, "Ah, yes, that's what's gonna solve my problem," and you go and do it, you spend the money, you hire the coach, you execute their system, but it didn't do anything for the issue. Like, you just put in a bunch of work into doing something, and you didn't get a result. So, realistically, if it was as simple as, like, you just need more people in your audience, you just need a sales system, you just need a better marketing strategy, like, if it was that simple, what you were doing would have worked by now. Now, I'm not saying that you can't benefit from some better marketing or a better sales funnel, but it's usually not something that's just so obvious like that that's holding you back. Because again, if it was, you would have fixed it by now because you've tried so many different things. The real issue is, and this is for all of us, this is for me as well. Nobody is above this concept. And no matter how smart you are, no matter how much your business grows, you're never going to get to a place where you can see 360 degrees inside your business. And the fact that you're so close to your business, like your nose is right up, right up next to it. You're doing the work, you're staring at it from 2 inches away. Being that close to your own business is actually what makes the real constraint invisible to you. So you think you're seeing the constraint, you think you're like, "Oh yeah, that's what I gotta do, that system is what I need." But you're so close to your business that you're not even actually diagnosing the problem correctly, and you're looking at it through a lens that's actually got a lot of filter on it that's preventing you from seeing the actual problem in your business. So we're gonna talk about the different filters that you can be seeing through that prevent you from actually finding the right problem and the right bottleneck in your business. But really, most people are either seeing through a blurry filter so they can't see the problem, or they're just so close to their business, so close to their expertise that they actually cannot see their blind spot, and they're just completely missing the actual bottleneck in their business. So I want to talk about the diagnostic lens. That's that concept of either you're so close to the thing that you're imagine trying to read something and it's so close that you can't even make the words out, or you're wearing a pair of glasses that's the wrong prescription and you actually can't really see out of it because it's blurry or it's just like making you dizzy. So generally in your business, if you are hitting a ceiling and if you are putting tons of effort in and not getting the outcome, it's because you have some sort of lens on that's warping or distorting what you're seeing. So we're going to cover each of these three lens problems for all of the different topics in your business that could be the bottleneck, and I really just want you to be thinking about these lenses when you're looking at the 5 different parts of your business that could be where the issue is. So the first lens problem is a belief problem. So this is the subconscious or even conscious beliefs about what's real and what's true about you, your business, and your market that makes the real issue invisible, or it makes you completely ignore possible solutions because you have this belief that makes that possible solution a no-go. So this is we all have limiting beliefs. Like, I don't think anyone gets to a place where they're, just in this like complete nirvana state and nothing ever is like, limiting for them. But limiting beliefs are really hard to see for ourselves. A lot of times we need someone else to point them out for us so that we're actually seeing it. Because again, if it's like the water we're swimming in, we don't even realize we're in it until somebody's like, "Hey, did you think about this?" Or, "Hey, I heard you say that. Is that true? Or are you sure about that?" And a lot of times that is the actual thing that's holding you back. Another lens issue is a knowledge problem. You might actually have an actual gap in your knowledge or in data collection or information or even a perspective that would help you see the problem from the full perspective, and you need to have that information. Now, I will say that this one can get tricky because a lot of business owners get trapped in this idea that, "Oh, I just need more information. I just need to learn more." And they can get stuck in this belief that they have a knowledge problem and that's why they're not getting the result. That can be a very dangerous trap to be in. But I also want to be very clear that sometimes you do actually have a knowledge problem, right? So it's not never, it's not like, oh, learning more would never be helpful. But we need to make sure that that is the actual block, because if it's not, you're going to spend a lot of time learning things that you don't really need to be learning right now. And you're not actually going to be making progress in your business. The third diagnostic lens is a decision problem. So maybe you have the right belief about what's possible. Maybe you have the knowledge that you need to actually execute, but you still are circling the decision. Now, I've been talking a lot recently about the concept of decision debt, which is the amount of lost opportunities, lost sales, just all the money that you're losing in your business because of these decisions that are either not being made or you make them and then go back to them and kind of waffle on them. This is the one where you're in that place where you're like, I know what's possible. I know even how I could get there, but I can't decide if I should go this way or this way. And a lot of times, more information is not going to solve that decision problem. It's more about being willing to take the leap in the face of uncertainty, knowing that action is what's going to produce the answer for you. So you have to figure out which of these lenses or which combination of lenses is the problem in each part of your business so that you can actually diagnose what the block is and fix the block instead of just spinning your wheels and circling around the problem and spending all this time in data collection mode, just hoping that you'll get enough information to actually move forward. So knowing that there's 3 different lenses that could be blurry or broken or just the wrong prescription for you, I wanna look at the 5 core areas of your business that those beliefs can show up in. And especially in that range between 100,000 and 1,000,000, this is the people who, again, they've made sales before. They know what they're doing as far as actually delivering services, having sales conversations. They're not newbies. They're not just like clueless about stuff. But these are the 5 core areas in your business that those 3 belief or I'm sorry, the 3 different lenses can show up and cause problems and actually become the bottleneck. So I'm going to go over each one, but they are your identity, which is basically the operating system inside your brain as the person who's running the business. There's your offer. So, what are you actually selling to people? There is your sales. So, how are you actually making money in your business? What's the sales process? Messaging. How are you communicating to the outside world about your business? And then systems, which is how does your business operate with or without your involvement? So, those are the 5 key areas that could be the bottleneck. You might have bottlenecks in multiple ones, but generally the concept of a bottleneck is that there's one point that's going the slowest for you right now. And that's the point that needs your attention to be able to actually grow past what you're experiencing. So we're going to look at each one of these individually, but these are the 5 that we want to make sure are in your zone of awareness as you're working through the process of understanding where your bottleneck is. So let's start with identity. Identity is the one that can be the sneakiest because, again, it's kind of like the water you're swimming in. If you were a fish, like you're not aware of water, it's just your environment, right? And so you are a human, you have certain beliefs, you have certain experiences, you have certain ways of viewing the world. And those beliefs, if not examined on a regular basis, can be the area where you're actually bottlenecked and it has nothing to do with your systems, your offer, your sales function. It's literally what's happening inside of your brain and what you think about yourself. So, the 3 different lenses, as I mentioned, belief, knowledge, and decision making. So, belief would be things like, oh, the way I naturally work isn't the right way to grow a business. It can be, I am too like introverted to be able to show up publicly. I don't have the type of energy to wake up really early in the morning. Like you're just creating these beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of that actually inform how you set up your business. And you also don't trust yourself. Like you might know certain things about yourself, but you don't believe that that's the best way to grow a business. So you end up overriding your own instincts, your own skill sets, your own strengths because you think somebody else's way of doing things is better. So that's a really common one. I'm seeing that all the time right now where founders that started their business, they got some momentum, they got some progress, but they hit a wall and now they're like, well, I just got to like get somebody else's system because apparently I don't know what I'm doing. And then they end up using a system that doesn't even match who they are. So that's a really common one for identity. Knowledge goes a little farther than that. It's not just what you believe about yourself, it's really just self knowledge. So if you don't understand what your natural way of making decisions is, if you don't know what your energetic needs are, if you don't know what kind of conditions you need to set up in your work schedule for you to work your best, you don't know what your actual strengths are to build on, because I think a lot of times people approach business thinking I need to fix my weak points, which is fine. It's okay to fix your weak points, but really your best business is going to grow as an extension of your strengths. And so we need to lock in on those and build from them. And if you don't know these things about yourself, you're not actually going to be able to make good decisions or build appropriate systems for your business because you don't actually know enough about yourself to build it based on you. So that's a huge one, is self-knowledge. And then decision is another place where people get stuck with their identity. You know what you want. You have like the vision board, you've written your goals down, you've done all the goal setting processes, but there's something about how you think or what you believe or how you're showing up in your business that's holding you back from actually acting on those decisions. So you're like, yeah, I really like I think I know where I want to go, but I haven't fully locked in on it. So you're not actually doing what you need to do to move towards that outcome because you're still like one foot in, one foot out. So, as an example, I work with a lot of different clients at the 6 to 7 figure level. And one of my clients recently came to the call saying, like, what I want for my business actually isn't possible. Like that was her, that was her exact belief that she brought into the call. She was like, there's only a few different ways you can run a business successfully, and none of them are matched to what I want. So I guess I'm just going to have to accept that I'll never make the money I want to make. So again, this is the mindset she's bringing into the call. And I had to walk her through the process of actually examining that belief and saying, okay, is that true? What's that based on? And by the time we actually ran the math on what her goals were and what she could get paid to do the things that she really wanted to do, it actually was very simple and did not even feel like that much work or feel like it was going to be that hard for her to accomplish. So if she had been just left in that belief of like, well, the way I want to do things isn't going to work, it's not possible, she would have never even done what was necessary to build that model. And that belief about what was possible for her, or that her desires were not a match for a successful business, that belief was the ceiling for her. So understanding yourself, understanding what works best for you, understanding what your goals are, your circumstances are, the things that affect how you make decisions, like what, like even like I have kids, I have 2 under 4 at this point. That is a factor of my life that has to affect how I make decisions. Some people might say it's a limiting belief, but it's literally just logistics, right? And so there's certain things I have to think about when I'm making decisions. And if you don't have a clear picture of all of that, you're not necessarily going to be making the decisions that are going to fit your business the best. So if you're interested in digging more into self-knowledge, I have a quiz called What's Your CEO Type? And this is where you can actually discover what your natural operating style is as a CEO, how you excuse me, how you make decisions, how your personality can actually inform the different parts of your business. And it's just a place to get started. It's not like, we're not trying to like psychoanalyze you here, but it's a place to get started, to start understanding what's your unique approach to business and how can you actually use that to your advantage. So that quiz is at www.lauraschoenfeld.com/quiz. And that'll give you your CEO type, and that will help build some knowledge around what type of business is the best fit for you to get the results that you want based on your strengths and what's already natural to you. Next is your offer. So you're making money. This is not like I have no idea what to sell and I don't know who to sell it to. Like you already have money coming in. You're already making an income from the offer. And maybe you're making a great income. Maybe you're already hitting multi six, 7 figures. But this could still be an area of bottleneck for you. So again, the 3 layers that we look at: belief, knowledge, and decision. The beliefs that I tend to see in this area for the more advanced entrepreneur is things like they've built this kitchen sink offer and it's really hard to deliver. It's exhausting them. They don't feel connected to it anymore, but they feel like they can't take anything out because their clients want all the things that are in it. Or they are very heavily present in their offer. A lot of it's based on their availability, their time, their energy. And they have that belief that if I remove myself at all from this offer, my clients won't get the same value or they won't want to pay for it because what they're paying for is access to me. So you can see how these are beliefs that if you were to hold on to them, it would create a bottleneck in your offer because you can't scale if you believe your clients need unlimited access to you to be able to get the result, right? So those beliefs could be the bottleneck for you. It could also be knowledge. So you don't have clarity on which part of the offer is creating the transformation and which part is just filler that you've been afraid to cut because one person one time said they loved it. Like you just have this, you believe that you need to change your offer. You believe you need to make some adjustments. You need to like cut some curriculum, add some things, but you don't really have a clear understanding of what's worth keeping and what's not worth keeping. So you stall. And then there can be the decision problem. So, you know the offer needs to change, you believe that it's possible, you even know which parts of the offer need to change, but you haven't really committed to that change because there's a lot of things that you can lose. Like potentially if you make a change, right? There's potential revenue loss. Like what if I make this change and I actually make less money? Or what if my clients are not happy? What if people are disappointed? Like what if people who would have worked with me decide not to because I made this change to the offer? There's a lot of stuff that can be in your head that even if you know the right thing to do, you still hedge on it because you just are worried what the consequence is going to be. So I have a personal example for this one. I had run a multi-million dollar signature program since 2020. And I was starting to feel last year like I had moved beyond what I was talking about and the types of support I was giving and the specific topics I was discussing in that program. But there was a lot riding on that program continuing to be what it was. I had put tons of systems into it. We had team members that supported it. We had all these systems to sell it. And it just was like this huge whale that was starting to feel like a really big mismatch for me. And I knew that there was a higher level that I was being called to, but I couldn't keep that program if I was going to move to the next level. So for me, this fear of like, what happens if I close this and I don't have something to replace it was the fear that kept that decision from being made as quickly as it could have been. And listen, I still made it. We still shut it down in January. I still, actually made that decision. But it might have been a decision I made sooner because I had been starting to feel that way a while ago, but I really just had that belief that like I don't have something to replace this with, so I can't shut it down right now. So that's a personal example. I've talked a lot about this on my podcast, the Nourished CEO podcast. And so if you guys want to hear a little bit more about that, you can go check that podcast out. But it is something where that decision to shut that program down was something that then unlocked all other different opportunities for me in my business and different audience, different growth situation, different messaging, like all the things just got unlocked from that one decision. Next, we're going to talk about sales. Sales is obviously the lifeblood of your business. You know that if you're not making sales, you don't have a business. And again, if you've hit six figures or more in your business, you know how to make sales. A lot of times, this is the place that you get really caught up in trying to make decisions or trying to tweak things or feeling stressed about things. But there's a lot of moving parts in sales, and a lot of times you're missing the actual problem in your sales structure that, if fixed, would actually allow you to move forward. So, just like before, we have belief, knowledge, decision. Belief in this situation can be things like my audience isn't ready for the price point I want to sell, or if I raise the price, people aren't going to buy, or if I get too pushy in my sales system, it's going to damage the relationship. People are going to think I'm salesy and then they're not going to want to buy from me. Like it's kind of crazy. I see a lot of people right now very afraid to bring their offer into an email sequence too soon because they're like, well, I haven't earned their trust yet. I'm like, dude, they're not going to freak out if you just mention your offer in the first email, right? Like nobody's going to be like, well, I would have kept listening to you, but you linked to your offer in that email. So screw you, right? Like I think there's so much concern right now that, oh my gosh, if I try to sell too quickly or if I put an offer in front of somebody who didn't ask for it, the world's going to end, right? So even with more advanced business owners, it's just there's so much belief around what is supposed to happen, especially if you've been in business for a longer period of time and you've been through like the era of like the jab, jab, right hook, where it's like, make sure you're giving, 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 giving until you ask for something. And unfortunately, especially in the very distracted society we live in right now, sometimes people don't wait long enough to actually stick around for the right hook, and then they don't actually get the offer. So there are some beliefs there that could be preventing you from selling as much as you could. You might also have a knowledge gap. So that means that you don't actually know what's happening in the sales conversations or where people are dropping off. So you know that there's some sort of slowdown. You know that there's a bottleneck in your sales process, but you don't even have the data to look at or you haven't collected it. So you're like, I don't know what to change because I don't actually know where the sales process is breaking. So sometimes more knowledge is important. And a lot of times that's knowledge of your business, not just more book knowledge, if that makes sense. And then for your decision making, you may know some of the things that have to change in your sales process, but maybe you're like, oh, it's so much work and I don't even know if it's going to change anything. So you just stall out and actually doing it and you haven't really decided and made that plan to implement. Or you're kind of like trying a bunch of different things and not really sticking with anything long enough to get real data on it. And so you haven't actually locked in on a decision that's going to help you figure out where is the issue in my sales and what needs to change so that it works better. And it's crazy some of the things that can change sales. I was just talking with a friend yesterday who is a multi six figure dietitian, business owner. And a lot of times we're, consulting on how to improve different opt or different conversion rates for her. And she was telling me that all she did on one of her sales pages was switch the order of the prices from having the monthly plan on top to having the pay in full plan on top. And she literally doubled. So she went from like 30 something percent to 60 something percent for people taking the full year offer just from that little switch. So it's crazy. Sometimes it's like these little tweaks that can be made to improve your sales process. But if you're spinning in this belief that like, well, nobody wants the 1 year offer and that's why nobody's buying it. It's like maybe that's not true. Maybe it's literally just the sales process needs some tweaking, right? And another belief I was mentioning, like my audience isn't ready for this price point. I was on a support call with a 7-figure health business owner, and she was talking about how she wanted to launch this high ticket offer, but she had this belief that because she's only ever sold things in like the 3 to 500 range, that her audience doesn't buy high ticket things. Like it just felt like that was the truth about her audience. But then she found out recently that two of her community members, people who had bought other offers from her, spent 10 grand to work with somebody that she knew. And so clearly that demonstrates, listen, they will spend high ticket prices, not all of them, but you do have people in your audience who buy high ticket things. And if you're just going to have this belief that your audience doesn't buy high ticket, then that is going to prevent you from building and selling a high ticket offer. And it's even like the belief is going to make you hedge on the sales. You're not going to go into it with your full chest, and that's going to impact your conversion rate. So, and again, this is somebody who's made millions of dollars in her business over the course of a few years. And she still had this belief that, like, I can't sell high ticket because my audience doesn't buy high ticket. So, think about, is it a belief issue? Is it a knowledge issue? Or is it a decision issue for your sales system? The fourth one is messaging. This one is huge, especially in 2026, because so much of what we're experiencing with the volatility in the market right now has to do with the fact that our markets have all gotten more sophisticated and our messaging has not elevated with it. So, messaging is one of the most important things you can spend time and energy on as a business owner to lock in and test and just experiment with until you nail it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are learning messaging strategies from bigger business owners that have not had to actually worry about their messaging for years because they have the level of brand equity that people will buy from them just because it's them. Like they just stamp their name on something and someone's like, I'm going to buy from her because she is famous, right? And I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm not going to name names because that's not what I need to be doing right now, but I've heard a lot of stories of people in these programs from these really really like basically internet famous coaches that everybody is struggling because the messaging strategies are not working and the person teaching it doesn't have the boots on the ground experience to actually know what messaging is working in 2026. And even their messaging isn't working that well. And so it's one of these things where it's like messaging is so important, but if you're learning messaging from someone who's like they can kind of phone it in with their messaging and it's still like makes sales for them, then you're going to be in trouble. And something else this is a little bit of a side note. I was talking with a friend the other day about even using these AI bots to come up with your messaging. You cannot use AI to actually create messaging from scratch. You can use AI to disseminate it, replicate it, get it out to more places, but the actual precision of your messaging and the sharpness of your messaging has to come from you, your brain, and your intuition. And if you're trying to outsource that to AI, it is going to bomb. And that is something I'm seeing a ton right now with people's businesses that are struggling. They have outsourced their messaging to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and they're wondering why it's not working. And it's because AI is going to work on a law of averages, and it's going to buff the edges off of your messaging. It's going to make you sound like everybody else, and you're just going to fade out into a sea of sameness if you're using AI to actually come up with the core messaging. So that's my little soapbox on that one. But like I said, right now, messaging is a huge, huge issue for a lot of people in the market we're in because we do not have that buffer of like mediocre messaging still working. Mediocre messaging is not going to work. It is something that needs to be very sharp, very clear, very unique to you, and very clear about what your perspective is and what your general approach to the work you do is so that you actually stand out compared to all the other people in your space. So, again, these beliefs can show up in a lot of different ways. Like maybe you believe, oh, the reason that people aren't paying attention is because I don't have enough followers, which that's a really common one. Maybe you believe that the people you want to work with they're just like not spending money on this stuff right now, or they're just not interested in what I'm saying. So that's the kind of stuff that can show up when you have a messaging problem. Or I'm sorry, a belief problem. So, belief in your messaging, belief about what people are buying, what they're not buying, if they're even paying attention to you, those beliefs can actually affect how you work on your messaging. This could be a knowledge issue. You don't even know what your ideal client is thinking about right now because you haven't done client research since 2022 or something, right? So you're at a higher level of sophistication in your market. Your original market research has gone stale. You've made all this advancements in your own knowledge. And so you're like way beyond the knowledge and the what's called cognitive fluency of your ideal client. And they're like, I don't know what she's talking about. Sounds nice, but I have this problem over here and I need to solve that problem first. So the more sophisticated your market gets, the more dialed in your messaging has to be. And if you don't even know what people think or what they care about or what their pain points are or what their goals are, you are going to struggle to come up with good quality messaging. So that could be a knowledge issue. And then it could also be a decision issue. So you could be like, oh, I feel like this isn't working. I feel like these templates are not working for me. If you're using like content templates, if you're using Claude to write all your content, you're like, oh, something about this feels off. But you know that the repositioning work is going to make some impacts on your business, right? You're like, well, I want to elevate who I'm talking to, but that means I'm going to have to leave all these people out. Or I'm gonna have to go back and do all this work to collect customer research. Like there's just a lot of things that can stop you from actually deciding that, yes, my messaging is what needs to be worked on and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it nailed. And that can be an issue that holds you back from moving forward in your business. And like I said, in 2026, I actually think it's the biggest issue that people are dealing with is that their messaging has gone stale. It has not elevated with the sophistication of the market. It has not come with them as they themselves have evolved. And they're just in this like total market message mismatch. And they're wondering why the stuff that they used to use that worked like crazy well isn't working anymore. So I actually just had a conversation with a multi six-figure founder who's getting a lot of views on her content. She said one of her recent posts on Instagram literally hit like 600,000 views, which is for me huge. I've never hit anything like that on social media. She's working with one-on-one clients. They're very happy with what she's doing, but she wanted to launch a course and she tried to launch this course and it has just totally bombed. Like nobody is buying it. She's barely even getting people to show up for her webinars, like barely signing up. And then her show up rate is like 5%. And it's just a disaster, right? So she knows that the messaging is the issue. Like she's very clear about that. This is not her first rodeo, but she hasn't necessarily decided to do what's necessary to fix that, right? So like she hasn't necessarily done the the market research deep dive again. She hasn't hired somebody to actually look at her messaging and work through it with her. Like it hasn't necessarily been the thing that she's going hard on, but that decision to nail it and to really do whatever it takes to get it right is the thing that is the biggest bottleneck for her right now. So again, messaging is so critical for 2026. You cannot sleep on this. And you need to figure out, is it a belief issue? Is it a knowledge issue? Or is it a decision issue? And then finally, we can look at systems. So systems kind of like the full architecture of your business and how it operates. And this is where, as the founder, you are doing all of this work that is not actually in your zone of genius. You're wasting all your precious time and energy and brain power on getting the actual day-to-day work done, and you're not saving any energy for the bigger picture visioning, decision making, like that executive function that you need to be doing. All of that is getting pushed on the wayside, or just like you're showing up with a half functioning brain to do it because you're spending so much time working the business because you don't have the systems in place to actually work it for you. So, when this is a belief issue, a lot of times it's the belief that nobody can do this the way I do it, so I have to do it myself. Or, okay, yeah, I know I should delegate this, but it's just faster if I handle it. Or, I don't even understand how to work like Claude Cowork or Claude Skills. Like, I can't figure that out, so I'm just going to keep doing everything manually. Like, just having those beliefs about what actually would be worth your time and energy is going to affect how you build or don't build systems in your business. And so if you're just that like type A perfectionist, everything has to run through me, that's going to be one of the biggest bottlenecks, if not the biggest bottleneck at the six, seven figure level. Now, if it's a knowledge issue, maybe you're like, okay, I am fully bought into this idea that I need systems. I don't need to be doing all this stuff myself. It might actually be a knowledge issue, right? Like I know a lot of people are buying into programs that are teaching how to build an AI team, right? Like AI employees and all of that. And there is no problem with that. I've heard really great things about what that can do for your business. That is who that is for. If you know that your systems are a problem and that's your biggest bottleneck and you just don't have the knowledge to implement, that would be what a program like that would be able to solve. The likelihood that that's it for a lot of people is kind of low, but for some of you, it really is just a knowledge issue, and you have to learn how to actually do the delegation and the leadership and build those skills to do things like building systems, creating SOPs, handing things off. Like that might actually be a knowledge gap for you that needs to be addressed. And then it can be a decision issue. So you know something needs to be delegated or restructured, and you actually have some skill sets to do it, whether you've done it before or you've got that training to be able to execute, but you haven't done it yet for some reason. Maybe it feels like the work to build the system is more work than just handing it off. Um, Maybe it feels like, oh, I'm so busy in the short term, I really don't have time to do this, which might be true, but that becomes extremely expensive over the long term because now your ability to do the work that only you can do is getting sucked into the day-to-day tasks of running a business. And that is not how you're going to break through a bottleneck, right? So if you've got all these tasks on your to-do list, you've got all this stuff you're holding in your brain that you have to remember. If you're like, oh, I got to like get my podcast published this week and you're the one doing everything from start to finish, that is going to be the biggest bottleneck for you. And yeah, sometimes it's a knowledge issue, but sometimes it really is just the decision to actually take the time and make space for creating the system in your business. Okay, so now you can self-diagnose which of these 5 core functions of your business is where your main bottleneck is. Now, you're not going to be like everything's perfect except for one spot, right? Like we're not talking about this idea that you're just going to fix this one thing and just make $1 billion. When you fix a bottleneck, you will find another bottleneck. That's just how bottlenecks work. That's how business works. There will always be a slowest point of your business. And we just need to find the biggest one to focus on so that the energy and time you're putting into it is maximally effective. So if it's an identity bottleneck, it's just understanding who you are, what you're great at, what you want, and deciding to actually build your business around that. So is there a way that you want to naturally run your business that you keep overriding because you think it can't work or because somebody told you that's not the way to do things? And what would be different or what would you do differently if you trusted that your natural strengths was the right way to grow your business? So that's one question to consider for the identity piece. For the offer piece, is your current offer still the right fit? Or are you delivering something that you've outgrown or isn't working for the life that you want because you haven't committed to the restructure? The commitment could be a decision problem. The commitment could be, I don't know how to restructure this so that it actually fits what I want. But that could be the thing that's slowing you down because you are maxed out and you don't have more to give in the offer area and you know something needs to change. If it's a sales issue, perhaps there's a belief that you're caring about what your audience will or won't buy. You don't actually have data to support that, but you have this belief that then affects how you show up and sell. And even if it's subtle, like you might be hedging on your sales process because you just don't think your audience will want what you have to sell. Or you just don't have the systems to actually replicate the sales process and everything you're doing goes through you. And so it's actually a physical bottleneck more than a mental bottleneck. If it's a messaging bottleneck, you want to ask yourself, is your messaging speaking to the buyer you want at the sophistication level that they're actually at in 2026? Not what people were buying in 2024, 2022, 2019. It's what people are buying today in 2026. Do you know for a fact your messaging is a match for that? And is it at the level of specificity it needs to be to work at a high level of sophistication in the market? And then systems, how much of your mental energy this week went to doing things that didn't require your specific expertise or labor to actually do versus the executive functions like vision casting, decision making, like just the direction of the business? How much of that is falling to the wayside because you're spending all your time and energy on the doing rather than the driving of the business? So, those are the 5 core areas of your business that could be the source of the bottleneck. And like I said, maybe all of them feel a little bit dicey for you right now, but there's going to be one that you stop and say, oof, that's really the thing that is causing the problem for me right now. And that's the one I'm going to dig into. So I hope that that's helpful to have an idea of where in your business you can be looking. And then again, looking through those 3 different lenses: belief, knowledge, and decision making for each one. Because it's not just, oh, my offer is a problem. It could be that you have a belief about your offer that's actually the bottleneck. And that's what's preventing you from making the sales and growing your business the way you want to grow it. Okay, so what does this mean for you? Once you actually find the bottleneck and once you identify what's the thing, is it a belief? Is it a knowledge issue? Is it a decision issue? Which part of my business is this falling into? Hopefully, you can do this yourself. But in reality, for most people, this is very, very difficult to do alone because, again, you are way too close to your business to really see the full picture. And what you think might be the bottleneck may actually not be the bottleneck that is slowing you down. You cannot read the label from inside the prescription bottle. This is not like, oh, you're not smart enough or you're just not cut out for entrepreneurship. This is literally just how your brain works. You are not able to see 100% of what's going on in your business from a completely objective perspective. You have a lot of emotions that are driving how you see things. You have a lot of history. You have a lot of depth of expertise. You have a lot of sunk cost that you're considering when you're making those decisions. And you need somebody objective who can come in beside you and be like either a mirror for what's maybe the belief behind the issue or to just give you a different perspective on how you can do something that maybe you weren't even aware of. Like you didn't even know it existed or you didn't even know that was an option for you. So you do not generally need to just work harder to get through a bottleneck when you're at 6 or 7 figures. The founders who break through bottlenecks are not the ones that are just adding more and more and more tactics to an already bloated business. They are the ones that get clear on what's actually driving the bottleneck, what's actually running the show behind their business. And then they have the courage and the clarity to make a decision to actually change it. It's not just about work harder and hope something finally works. It's really about finding what actually needs your attention and having the ability to move forward on the thing that is the bottleneck, no matter what might be, what your beliefs might be, what your experience might be, what the stories that you're telling yourself might be, or even what your perspective is because you've never seen someone do it the way you want to do it. So knowing that you absolutely need objective feedback, you cannot do this in a vacuum. Your brain is not, smarter than anybody else's in the sense that you can just see a 360-degree angle on your business. Everybody needs somebody that can be a mirror and be that guide for them. And it's just a matter of who, and it's just a matter of what kind of experience you want to be in as you are making those decisions. So if you are somebody who knows, I need somebody, I need a mentor, I need a place for a group of peers, I need friends, I need people in my corner who are experienced, who have different perspectives, who can be objective about my situation, and who actually care about me and know about details about my family, know some of the fears that I have, know some of the like limiting beliefs that have come up. They see what's possible in you. They want to call you higher. Like if you know that that's the environment you want to be in, and you know that, listen, I can find some issues, I could pull out some bottlenecks right now, but I'm not confident that I am going to find the biggest bottlenecks. And I'm also not confident that I can just like rewire my own thinking about them in a complete vacuum where I don't have anybody else to talk to about this. Then that is what the decision room is for. So I am running a 6-month mastermind starting at the end of June called the Decision Room Mastermind. And so if our conversation today has helped you start to think about which part of your business is slowing you down, what kind of lens you're looking through. Is it a belief lens? Is it a knowledge lens? Is it a decision-making lens? Like, where is the actual place where you, as a unique, like multifaceted person with lots of experience, lots of things that have gone well and not so well in your business, if you're like, I think I'm starting to see some places that I could really make some changes in my business to actually break through the bottlenecks that I'm experiencing, but I don't feel like I'm ready to just do it totally on my own, and in reality none of us are, then that is what we're doing in the decision room, and I would love to invite you to apply. So this is a 6-month mastermind for established founders who have already passed 6 figures, so you're already at that 100K or higher level, and you are just done circling the same decisions over and over. You're done having this experience of like, I thought I was going to do something and then I changed my mind because I didn't know if it was going to work and I got nervous and I freaked out because nobody was buying. So I backed off what I was trying to do, like all of that back and forth that happens because we're in a volatile industry right now. We're in a volatile time and you're like feeling a little rudderless right now. That is what we're going to help you with inside of the decision room. So you're not wasting time and energy and stressing out about all the decisions you have to make and then filling your calendar with all this low value work because it feels more productive than digging into those big executive decisions because, oh my gosh, I have to make those by myself. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So let me go mess around in Canva for another hour. Like if that's the experience that you're having, then this is what we're going to do in this room together. So you're a founder who has clear proof of concept. You've made sales. You have an audience. You're showing up. You're communicating to people. You're not hiding behind your keyboard. And you're making money. Like, you know, you can make money, but you also know there's so much more for you. And you just haven't figured out why do you keep circling the same problems over and over and over. So what we're going to do inside this room together, so we're going to start with diagnosing, like, where are the actual bottlenecks in your business right now that need your attention, need some decisions to be made, need some actual execution, finding those constraints, making sure they're the real constraints and not the one that just feels more obvious to you. And then we're going to work on doing what's necessary to make those changes together. So maybe it's building a system, maybe it's installing AI tools to make the work easier. Maybe it's digging into your messaging and getting the sophistication and specificity up to the level that's necessary for 2026. Whew, just went back a decade. So doing all of that necessary work to get your business moving in the right direction and breaking through those plateaus, and doing it alongside both a mentor who has done multi-millions in her business, as well as peers who are on the same journey and at the same level that you are. So that is what we're doing in the Decision Room Mastermind. Applications are currently open until June 19th, 2026. We have 15 total spots. And once those are closed, they're closed. I want this to be an intimate space where I actually get to know you. Your peers get to know you. This isn't like, you know, you're in a room of 100 people and nobody knows who you are and you're just like hanging out in the background. And you are going to get one-on-one with me as part of this process. So I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to get to see the inner workings of your business. I'm going to help you figure out what those bottlenecks are. And then I actually have tons of experience with building systems, implementing strategies. I have lots of resources that I've built at my disposal to share with you to make everything move so much faster for you. So that's what we'll be doing in the decision room. And like I said, I'm so excited to bring a group of people together who have those goals to break through their plateaus, who understand the importance of having trusted people in their corner to help them see what they're not seeing, to brainstorm ideas, to get different perspectives, for people to hold up that mirror to them and be like, hey, I feel like there's a limiting belief here that needs to be addressed, and to be in that safe space to actually dig into this stuff in a way that is productive and then actually gives you a direction to move on so that you're not wasting time and energy fixing the wrong things in your business and then just circling the drain. So that's what we're doing in the Decision Room Mastermind. Super excited for it. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you're listening to this on the podcast, feel free to DM me on Instagram at laura.schoenfeld. If you're on Substack, feel free to message me on Substack. And then if you want to check out all the details and submit your application before our deadline, you can go to jointhedecisionroom.com and check out all the information about the program, what we're going to do in there, decide if it's a good fit for you, and then get your application in before the deadline. All right. Well, I hope that this has been super helpful for you to be able to dig into the concepts of the different parts of your business that bottlenecks could be, the different lenses that might be preventing you from seeing where the bottleneck is, and just giving you that place to start diagnosing your own business, so that you can actually find where the bottleneck is and spend the time and energy necessary to change that and to uncork that bottleneck so that you can break through the plateau that you're at and really start seeing the growth that you know you're capable of. All right. If you're here on Substack Live, feel free. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to hang out and answer those. Have lots of time. Like I have, I think my next call is in like probably at least an hour or so, but I see we have 7 people here watching live. Feel free to drop in the chat. And actually, let me stop my share. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see me. Yeah. So if you're here live, let me know if you have any questions or just say hi. If there's anything that really stood out to you as what you're going to be exploring as far as the bottleneck is concerned. Um, this is my first Substack live. So even just saying hi tells me that all the tech worked and I didn't just spend uh, 52 minutes on mute or something. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any questions. But if you have a question that comes up and you want to chat about it with me, please send me a message. I think I can get DMs on Substack. If you're not sure about how that works or you're listening to the podcast, send me a DM and at Instagram at laura.schoenfeld. Happy to chat with you about this opportunity, to see if it's a good fit for you, see if this is where you need to be to uncork those bottlenecks and to make the progress you want to make in your business. But either way, thanks for hanging out with me. If you were here live, super excited to start using this feature on Substack. And I'll look forward to seeing you around next time for the next time I go live. Bye, everybody.